Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you've waited. It's the Santita Jackson Show, the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Hey, Andre. Hello, Ashley King down there in Memphis, Tennessee. Sending you so much love. Hey, Robert. Sending you all so much love. All my morning stars, Laura Bell, Bernadette. Everybody, please like and subscribe. Oh, everybody's over on YouTube. Thank you. Please, Bernadette, everybody, get on over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. Please give us some thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like the show, share the show. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That's right. That's the only place where I can accept friends. And I'm at Santita J on X. So there we go. Everybody, and thank you so much for your prayers. I feel so much better today, but I am going to go get back in bed as soon as we're done, but not until we're done. We had quite the conversation in the last hour as we're looking at election 2024 and the polls. You know, we are in a moment. It's not just an historical moment. I think it's a moment that is really defining for the republic itself. You know, the question is, as Dr. King said many years ago, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Are we going to have a peaceful society and a just world or not? You know, which way are we going to go? And what do we expect from Kamala Harris? Do you expect anything from former President Donald Trump, who was beginning to gain a lot of traction in the Black community? He had already done that 4 years ago, 8 years ago. But now, has she made a dent in some of his support? According to some of the reports, yes. But according to some other reports, no, it's almost still a dead heat, even as she's rising in the polls. And no less than Don Lemon was shocked by these man on the street interviews that he's been conducting. He was in a deep blue state, New Jersey. Now, many of us know man on the street interviews. You know, when the reporter stands on the street and they have their microphone and they just ask you a question. That's called a man on the street interview. Well, guess what? He, of course, famous journalist, right? He's standing on the boardwalk in New Jersey. Again, a deep blue state. And according to this news report, former CNN host Don Lemon appeared to be surprised by historically deep blue state New Jersey, where voters told him they would be supporting Donald Trump in the election. And it happened over and over and over again. And the first interview, he said, Trump for the win, and added that Vice President Harris wasn't good for the nation. And he saw this over and over and over again. And he's been seeing this happen as he's been doing these man on the street interviews in these deep blue areas. So what's going on? What is going on with the Pew study? What is the disconnect with some of the Black voters? History has shown that if a Black candidate, a crossover candidate, just to make it, they have to over-index in the Black vote. You have to get about 95%. I mean, Black people have to be on fire for you in order for you to make it. If Black people are not on fire for you, I don't care who else likes you. You're not going to make it, sugar, because that's how it works. So, and that's not in the 70s or the 80s. That's in the mid-90s. And we have to be registering to vote, and it has to become a real thing. And as we're watching the enthusiasm for Vice President Harris grow, we're still not there yet. My question is, why aren't we there? What do we expect from her? What do we need from her? And how do we get over the hump? Come on, LaTanya Pegues, Howardite, because you know we're pulling out for the Howardite. Come on, girl. Give it up. Give it up. Come on, girl.
Yes.
Come on. Where is that sign?
What? Oh. That's the cue. I'm sorry.
I'm with her. Why? Yes. There you go.
Sorry, I missed the cue.
Kamala was a year behind me. She's way behind you. She's a child, but we still love you. That's right. In the house. And of course, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, community psychologist from Make Noise for Change. And of course, India Walton, brilliant, brilliant political strategist. And of course, she made a whole lot of noise up in Buffalo, New York. She almost became the mayor. If the Democrats had stood behind her, someone who had no money, who had really not broad name recognition, but she had a message, a working class message, she almost won. But the Democrats did to her what they did to Bernie Sanders, what they've done to Reverend Jackson. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and they put someone else up to run against her. So there you go. Yep, yep. I had to say that. But good trouble, and she's going to keep on going because that's what we do. So everybody, please like and share, like and share, like and share. She's with Roots Action now, but we're waiting for her to run for mayor again because there's something in the atmosphere that the impossible is manifesting all over the place. So Latanya, the Globetrotter, who went from the SCLC convention to the Rainbow Convention to the Democratic Convention, now you're headed to the Black Caucus, and you just doing it, doing it, doing it. So what do you make of some of these? I mean, some of these numbers, because I'm hoping that I'm going to see some enthusiasm grow. But you were asking the question in the last hour: what is it that we want from? Do we ask more of Black candidates than we ask of others? And I said, but I think that we should because the price has been higher, and we have another kind of mission. We're not just supposed to get in a place and occupy a seat, Latanya. At least that's my opinion. We're supposed to make the change. I'm not with slavery, and I'm not with anything that supports it, right? I'm not with Jim Crow or anything that supports it. I'm not with inequality or anything that supports it. Black people, according to the Institute for Policy Studies, it will take us 500 years from today, India Walton, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, 500 years from today to achieve economic equality in America, as things are presently structured. We don't have 500 years. Dr. King said that's why we can't wait. So what do you make of these numbers, and what do you think should happen so that the vice president can become president? We want her to drop that vice from her name, right? So, Latanya, what say you?
Well, I think that it's important for any decision that we make, that we should look at both sides of that decision. So we hear what some people are saying and what other people are saying. But then I think that also we should maybe look back in time as to other things, other times that we voted or made a decision. So are we applying that same type of enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm to this decision as we're making? And if not, then maybe we should, and if we're and vice versa too. And so I think that it's interesting that sometimes it seems that when certain people who folks aren't used to seeing in leadership, that they have a different, it's like they're still clawing their way, if you will, even though they're really qualified, have a lot of experience, even being elected. It's one thing to be appointed to a position, another thing to be elected, and to have been elected several times. There's a lot of vetting that goes through that process, versus just being elected like one time, versus several times. And then being in a place where, yes, there was some controversy and things like that, and having to overcome that as well. And so I think that that maybe that people should just take a look, at Vice President Harris's record too, not just as the vice president, but also in California as the attorney general and as a senator. Some people are just kind of focusing on certain small things, but they're not looking at the overall picture. And I think that when people make decisions about who they're going to vote for, that it shouldn't just be just a one little narrow thing, especially as so many political commentators are saying this year, Santita, that there's so much that's on that for American history right now. So much is on the line. So when you talk about Project 2025 and over 900 pages, of what one political party is looking to do, those kind of things might set off some alarm bells for people. So even if they're looking specifically at one little slice of what their interest is, where they may be against a certain party, well, if they see what another one is doing, not over 900 pages, that might make them think twice about it. Now, I don't know about you and all of your guests, but there have been times when I have voted for different people that I don't necessarily agree with 100% of what they're doing. That's never happened for me. I don't know about you, but even, through all these historic elections and things that we've experienced in my lifetime, Every time I voted, I have not been 100% for everyone. So I think that that's something that maybe we should remember too. So the thing about it is we can get a candidate elected, but people do not forget we have what we call political capital. So once we've helped them get elected, we can go and keep contacting them, emailing them, talking to the senators, our congressmen, our representatives, as well as the president of the United States, and let them know what we're expecting from them, whether that be through caucuses, through coalitions. Stick with the message. Just don't get them elected and then say bye-bye. But then also be on a team to make sure that they're listening to us and hearing what we have to say, because if not, we also can say something else in the midterms.
India Walton, tell me, you have run for office. You are organizing with Roots Action. You're talking to people all the time. What about this? How does Kamala get to 95%? I mean, or do you think that these polls are not to be trusted?
You know, I am probably a hyper informed voter, right? I pay attention to the news cycle. I pay attention to policy on both sides, on all sides. I'm watching that. Average voters, and particularly when we bring up this sort of man on the street conversation that's happening, Donald Trump has a particular style of retail politics that resonates with people who are not necessarily paying attention to what policies are and what records are, right? And Dr. Latrice had a good point yesterday. When we are saying this is a prosecutor against a felon, a lot of people in our community are hearing and parroting and repeating is that, oh, Kamala as a prosecutor locked up people for low-level drug offenses. She was locking us up, and Donald Trump sent us a check for $1,200 during the pandemic. The man put his signature on the check. You would be hard pressed to find people that don't believe that money didn't come out of his own pocket, instead of it just being the money that we are due as taxpayers. So I think that it is going to be imperative for the Harris campaign to develop a message that is resonant with people whose worries are not about the long game, as it's not about being able to stack the courts, who probably don't vote in off-cycle or midterm elections, but a message that resonates with people who are worried about putting food on the table, having bus fare to get to work, keeping their lights on, and making sure their babies got shoes with soles on them to get back to school.
So are you saying, do you think that the campaign as it's presently constructed is over everyone's heads?
I want to give people more credit than that. I wouldn't say it's over people's heads. I think that is, when we talk about, I'm a nurse, right? I know that anyone who's taken a psychology class probably knows about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Explain
the Harris
that.
campaign is talking about things that we can't worry about until we get those basic needs met. And that's shelter, safety, food, clean air and water, right? Like, people are not thinking about how this is going to impact us 10 years down the line. Most of us are hoping that we're going to be here in 10 months from now.
Well, I mean, that's a heck of a thing. So everybody, please let me know what you're thinking. What your thinking is. I mean, because the fact is, most people in the world are hurting. Most people in America, Latanya and India Walton, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, they're hurting. The grocery store is something people are charging their groceries if they have a charge card. You know, and when you go to the groceries, you're trying to figure out where this $50, $60, $100 go, because I didn't even get a piece of meat. I mean, I can't afford the rent. I can't afford to rent an apartment in a city where I'm working. Buy a house, 99% of America's counties, I can't afford to buy the house. I mean, these are basic things. The undergraduate tuition at the University of Chicago is $100,000 a year. That's the neighborhood I live in. $100,000 a year minimum. Who can do that? I mean, let's just keep it 100, right? I mean, if we're, so So that's why I'm trying to find out where the disconnect is so that we can close the loop. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, what do you make of these numbers? Because the numbers really, they have to. And Robert, you said, I promise you, Kamala will get over 95% of the Black American vote. I want that to happen. That's why we're trying to have this conversation today, so we can make sure that it does happen. Some people have accused me of being biased. Biased against what? Biased towards what? The thing is, I'm not afraid to ask questions. You got to be able to ask questions so that we can get these things right. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, what do you see? What are you hearing from people?
I see some of the same things. Even what India was just saying. People are concerned with those things that are affecting them right now, and to have them stretch and try to wrap their minds around what's going on in the political world. Well, it's homelessness, it's poverty, it's lack of quality jobs, lack of quality education, all these things, mass incarceration, everything that impacts the community impacts everyone overall. And even though some people may not necessarily feel like they're impacted, they are only an arm's length away from it. And so I think that when we talk about understanding who should be the best candidate for president, people feel like they're already left out of the loop in so many different ways, but they're hurting in the ways that keep them living. And so if you're dealing with homelessness or poverty, the election is not the first thing on your mind. But if you're an individual who feels like, okay, I'm going to try to understand this, then you're going to try to go to those sources who you think can educate you or steer you in the right direction so that you can be a part of the conversation. So there are many people out here in the organizing world, in the grassroots organizing world, in the organizations that really are a part of the conversations, but they want to amplify their voices. And that's why they're uniting in the ways that they are.
So, so what are people saying? I mean, what are they saying? Because you could see, if I don't know how many of you saw uh, the video of Don Lemon. He was genuinely confused. I mean, he was like, wait, hold on. Wait, who you're voting? Wait a minute, you're voting for, wait a minute, could you explain why you're all in for Trump? I mean, he just had to stop them like, wait. You mean to tell me after all of this? Because this is just after the convention is over, right? He's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And he found this over and over and over again. Dr. LaShawn Latrice.
Well, I'm going to say this. I was really shocked to see the type of energy and finances that the Trump campaign is spending to go into certain urban communities and pay people. They're actually paying them uh, to wear their shirts and to say that they're voting, when in fact a lot of people are not even registered to vote.
Mm.
So I have a problem even with the notion that what you say that number was 17%. How could
Well,
people
I'm
weigh
saying
in?
she's like it's 78% support in the Black community.
Mhm.
She needs to get that. She needs to amp that number up by at least 17%.
So those people who are just feeling a little unincluded, they're going to be the last ones to go register to vote, even though many don't know that they can register on site. But like you said before, people don't even know about the names being purged off the voters' rolls. So when you're talking about these people who have come out and said they're going to vote for Trump, I think a lot of it is a bunch of fluff, and I think it's the money that people are spending that they want the people to say what they want them to say, and unfortunately, they look like us, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do what they're saying they're going to do. Hello?
Hello, India Walton. Oh, okay. Well,
That's
I mean, India. So, what are you saying? Were you responding to that?
no, that wasn't me. I don't know who that was.
You tried
Oh,
to call me. I'm sorry, you all.
okay. Ghost in the machine. I said,
Yeah,
"Whoo,
I'm
okay."
sorry.
No,
Santita,
that's
I
all
think
right.
that one thing that unfortunately in the African American community, there are a lot of people who do suffer from diabetes. And so maybe something that people can say is, well, you may not know this, but the Biden Harris administration for seniors has now capped their insulin at $35 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And some seniors were trying to figure out if they're going to get insulin or if they're going to be able to buy food. And so I think that that in itself is something, because again, I forget which your panelist was talking about the touch points. I think it was India about the hierarchy of needs. So if someone needs insulin, $35 for the entire month supply is a lot better than trying to figure out if you're going to eat or not. So that might be something that people can kind of amplify, just from a touch point perspective. And then also there's been quite a few African Americans who have been positively affected by the loan forgiveness for college loans and college debt. I've seen several stories where certain single moms and single parents have just been struggling trying to make it and have literally had $100,000 plus of debt relief. Now that may not be a $1,200 check, when, as we know, that wasn't from the former president's own money. That was from the Treasury of the United States. But $100,000, if we hear some more of those stories amplified of people who really could use that kind of assistance, I mean, those are two big stories: $35 insulin and debt forgiveness for certain people from their student loans.
But the Democrats have done a very poor job of messaging. They've made a lot of big moves that have helped a lot of people, but they never got that out. And that to me was like, I've been perplexed by that. Not to mention the fact that look, we have wanted an executive action on voting rights. So simple to do. You need people to vote. It's something the president was unwilling to do. And he's still the president, by the way, you all. President Joseph Biden is still the president of the United States. Don't be fooled. And, we wanted, justice in policing. More Blacks have been killed and Latinos have been killed by the police since George Floyd was killed than at any time in history. I mean, we need that, but that's not something that they have come forward with, although they've come forward with a lot of other things, Tanya, and I think that's important. But I mean, please, all she has to do is have like 5 or 6 of these points that she's ready to fire back at people. I mean, just say it. And when she talks about inflation, look, the data shows that these corporations have been bilking us. So when she talks about price controls, what? Just say, the corporations, they have been squeezing Americans. I want that to stop. It's simple. Say it. Or get one of your surrogates to say it. It needs to happen. Because she's got to have, I mean, what did you say? You have to put it down where the goats can get it. But you are an unconscious bias trainer. I can't help but think, and I want India and Dr. LaShawn Latrice, I want you to speak to this. What role do you think sexism is playing?
I would say there's certainly a role that's being played. And I say that as a CEO of a company and as a scientist and engineer. I think that there's part of our society that just has a challenge and a problem with reporting to Black people who are in leadership, and also to women who are in leadership. I don't know if your panelists have had that experience as well, but I think that may have something to do with it. Because if you just look again, if you just write down the pros and cons, if you start talking about like qualifications, like even educational background and things of that nature, and really do a deep dive into the former president's experiences, a lot of the buildings that have his name on them, they're licensing agreements. He does not own those properties, so if you just keep peeling back and digging back, even the one in Washington, D.C., that was owned by the United States of America. That was owned by the GSA. And he had a 99-year lease on that building, which he no longer has, but his name was on that. So, there's just certain, and that's not misinformation. These are well-documented facts. So people are in a position to be able to just, say, okay, what are the qualifications from each candidate? What are they doing? How are they benefiting people? It's so interesting because it seems like during this time of running for president, that one candidate spending a lot of time on the golf course and not necessarily doing a lot of campaigning. So, these are the kind of things that we can just peel back and just look at, do our own research and not just based on what we see on TikTok or what our friends have told us who have no political experience or who have maybe never even voted, which is their prerogative, of course. But again, I come back to doing our own research, find credible sources, whether you agree with everything they say or not, and maybe at least you can peel back a little bit of your bias and your implicitness to be able to say, well, maybe there is something there that I hadn't considered.
I mean, India, what role do you think sexism might play? Just in the broader community, but in the Black community. I mean, this is something that Stacey Abrams struggled with, and she had some other issues in her campaign for sure, and people down in Georgia will tell you that. But what do you think about that? Because some men will tell you, I cannot imagine a woman who's in charge of the nuclear codes. Just sorry. Or they might give lip service to supporting her, but when they shut that curtain, mm, it's hard to believe that some people think that way, but they do.
It's
India.
it's not that hard for me to
It's,
believe, right?
it's hard for me. I'm sorry.
I think sexism, misogyny, and racism all play very big factors in this political moment. Let's not forget that this country was founded on white supremacy and patriarchy. And a lot of that not only affects the way that we are treated by our white counterparts, but there are some of those, the hypersexualization of Black women. This notion that if you are a Black woman, you couldn't have got to your position on your own merits, but there must have been some sort of intimate relationships happening to get you where you are, has been internalized by a lot of people in our own community, and not just the men either. I've heard women say that, Kamala has pretty privilege, or she wouldn't be where she was without the relationships that she's had. So I do think that plays a big role in the fact that we're even having this conversation. If we're talking about, a binary choice, right? My whole position is that this notion that all we have is two choices is wrong. There's nothing we can do about it right now in this moment. The election that we have is the one that we have. May not be the one we wanted. In the words of Jim Zogby, it may not be the election that we want, but it's the election that we have, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this to be contrarian or say that, I'm not going to support a Harris candidacy. The point that I'm trying to make is that we have a lot of work to do to undo the legacy of harm and of prejudice and of racism and of sexism in this country in order to level the playing field. The fact that Kamala has been put within 7 points of a person like Donald Trump is absolutely ridiculous. A person who was not qualified, who was criminal, who was openly admitted to sexually assaulting women, who is a terrible business person, who claims to be a billionaire, and the facts suggest otherwise. The fact that he's being compared as anywhere near an equal as a person, as a woman who as accomplished as Kamala Harris is just ridiculous that we're even considering him as an option.
You have radio silence here. I mean, and honey, everybody unmute your mics so you can just jump in and let's have the amen corner. But I mean, and this is a woman who made history twice. She became Attorney General of the state of California. This is the largest, most populous state in the nation. She won statewide office as a Black woman. Believe me, she can be part Indian all day long. But let me tell you, whenever you put Black in the equation, it changes everything. Yeah, it does. She's Black first. And her mother raised her with that understanding. I mean, come on.
And I mean, come on. When we talk about Blackness, like, let's not forget, because I wasn't even voting age when Bill Clinton was running. Bill Clinton was invited to the picnic, and people were saying that he was the first Black president. Do you remember that when he was on Arsenio Hall?
Girl, yeah.
So there's no one else that can tell our community who's Black and who ain't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because they couldn't trace who his daddy was. And then I love Bill Clinton. He's a personal friend. But he'd come to events. And when he would read the audience to see that the audience was mostly Black, he'd go into this little thing because he knew we could understand, we could relate. I don't know who my daddy is. And Black folks will go, oh, yeah, that's right. I really don't know who he is. And you were supposed to infer from that my daddy could be Black. I mean, what? That's what they would do. Plus, he's a little dusky in color and all of that. So, I get it. But we were all in for that. Yeah, y'all. So, look. But this is real. This is where we are. I mean,
Santita, can I say something? You were asking a question about what people are referring to is, you know, I think it's a lot of sexism in the world just based on talking to people. People actually feel like, oh, I'll just vote for him because the world's not ready for a woman president. You know, some of the very same sentiments that have been stated right here. We talked about that before, how there are a lot of people, it has nothing to do with race. When they see a woman in leadership, it makes them double back. And I would say many of the men that I talked to, they made statements like that. But there are also some women who are probably never going to admit that they feel that way, but they really do. Because if you think about a long time ago when President Obama was running for election, and we were all excited, and Black people felt like, you know, finally we have somebody. I could remember talking to a very prominent preacher, and the first thing he said was, "Oh, don't waste your time even thinking about him. He's not going to win. He doesn't have a chance in hell." And I asked him about that after Obama won the first election. And he said I was wrong. I said, okay, because you thought we were crazy and we were telling you that, you know, this man had a chance at being president. But it made me think about how people feel about a woman being president. And like I said, I don't think it has anything to do with race. I think it's just sexism that exists in the world. And I think people don't understand that um, those things can actually change the direction of the country. Just your mentality in saying that, but it goes back to kind of like the old boys club. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but you know, I think, but part of that, even as we, you know, because sometimes I remember when Bill Clinton made the remark during the 2008 cycle that, of course, Barack's going to win South Carolina because Jesse Jackson won it. He was dismissing it, right? And there was someone who was 10 toes down for Hillary. She changed her mind on on my old radio show. She said, "Oh, I I dare him." And I said, but we're still not asking questions about policy, right? You know, because I think that even as we're, you know, taking this apart, we still have to look at policy and what it is that we need, because we have some fundamental needs. Our black farmers are in trouble. They've lost 90% of their land since the turn of the last century. That's billions of dollars, everybody. Billions, billions, billions upon billions of dollars. The black family's looking at negative wealth in 60 years. By 2085, that's 61 years. At this rate, it will take us 500 years to achieve economic equality in the United States. Don't you think we need to be talking about that? Student loan debt is choking everybody of every conceivable background. People can't. We cannot go on much longer. No, people cannot. I mean, so where do we go from here? I mean, India, you're talking to people on the ground. What does Kamala need to do? What does Vice President Harris need to say or do um, to I guess just to amp up the excitement about her? What do you think? What do you think needs to happen? Because we're looking at the debate, I think, on September 10th. If they agree to all of the, you know, if they agree to all of the, you know, whatever it is that they are disagreeing about, you know, all the conditions. Um, do you think? I mean, and people are concerned. Everybody's concerned about their candidate in a debate. What do you think she needs to do to win that debate, India Walton?
I think that there needs to be some more emphasis on her economic plan. One thing that I think that was very smart about the ticket is choosing Governor Tim Walz, who has a record of implementing some very popular policies in Minnesota, including universal breakfast and lunch for all school children,
Mm-hmm.
tax cuts for the middle class, and various other things. I think that the focus really needs to be on the economic policies that are going to prioritize poor and working class Americans, because that is the majority of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I said earlier, you know, Donald Trump has this very unique ability to sell retail politics, even though he's not personally put forth any policies that have benefited Black people or working class people. There's this perception that he has. So I think that, Kamala, if she comes out strong on economic domestic policy, that would be very resonant with voters. And I mean, I think that we can't ignore the fact that the war in Palestine, the genocide in Gaza is still at the front of people's minds. And as it becomes more and more a part of the mainstream conversation, people want to know why we can send tens of billions of dollars to Israel, but we can't feed our children right here at home.
That's important. Well, I will say Trump did put more money into Black colleges, even because we lost a lot of money during the Obama administration. Those are just the facts, everybody. And Karen said, you have seen no 45 policy. That is, I guess that would be referring to Trump. I hear you. Biden just gave billions to Black farmers, right? Forgave student loans in the billions. Yep. But you know what? That's not my job to sell that. The problem I have with the Democrats right now is that they have not made that part of their talking points. Don't put that on me. I am not a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. I'm a registered Democrat, but that is not what I do. And I'm not ambitious to do that. Leave that to everybody else. I don't need to call their names. They can do that. I'm an advocate for you, for the people. And that's what I want to be free enough to do that. So I'm not the one who has the bad message. They're the ones who have the messaging that's poor. And they need to clean that up. That's not on me. So you can just stop trolling me the way you're doing this, Karen, because it's not working. Well, you need to go to talk to Van Jones. Talk to this Republican who's on CNN, who's going to support Kamala. Talk to her, to Anna Navarro. Talk to them. That's what they're paid to do. And they need to get out there and they need to make that point. And that should be that. And every time Kamala comes out, she should say, boom, we've done boom, 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 boom. She ought to be doing that. It is real simple. I mean, and she ought to be saying it in her sleep. LaTanya, Dr. Latrice, India Walton, because that's how you win. You ought to be it ought to be a litany for her, where she is just pounding. This is what we've done. And and there's more where this came from if you elect me. That's their job. So the question is, why aren't they doing it? I'm so tired of Democrats snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. There's no way that they should be tied with Donald Trump right now. There's no way. Why are they tied with him? That's not my fault. I didn't do that. That's something they're doing, something they're not doing. I know at the height of the Reagan Revolution, Reverend Jesse Jackson had registered so many people. And even after the Democrats had kicked him in the teeth and absolutely been disrespectful, and I'm going to write about it so you could know about it, because he kept on going so he could get you in, Karen and Robert and Lisa and everybody else. We won the Senate in '86, and we pushed back Robert Bork, who was a throwback to the Neanderthal age, kept him off the court. And the Democrats didn't do that. We did it. Why aren't they doing it now? Why aren't you using Bernie Sanders? The most popular elected official in America is Bernie Sanders. Why aren't you using him? I'm not doing that. No, you don't understand my assignment. You have no idea. You don't understand my assignment because my assignment comes from on high, honey. Because I am a religious person who uses my religious values to shape my politics. I say that which is impolitical, that which is impolitic. I'm talking about poverty. That's not going to win me in office. Maybe, maybe not. I'm talking about ending war. And when I talk about ending war, when Dr. King talked about ending war, that got him killed. It was okay when he talked about desegregating, kumbaya. Yeah, folks wanted to kill him. A woman stabbed him in the chest when he was signing his books up in New York. Remember that? Oh, no. It's when he went after the military-industrial complex. They took him out. And that's what they still do. You don't have to stand down. You don't have to stand down. Look, if you're going to put it out there. Let's go toe-to-toe on this, Karen. I'm just telling you, I am not a mouthpiece for the Democrats, and I'm not going to be. I support them. And I support them. And because I support them, I will be critical of them. I grew up in Chicago. The most oppressive force that we've had has been the Democratic Party. We were forced to vote straight ticket. We have been forced in Chicago to make the Democrats Democratic. That's what I'm talking about. And I don't need to be, and when I was growing up, you had to be on the Democratic plantation in order to get a city job. I don't want that for anybody. Why should that be the price that anyone pays? And why can't I criticize the party of which I am a part? The party which we personally my family put their lives on the line to change it and to open the door so you could get in. Because when we walked in, there were no blacks there. Karen, LaTanya, you see blacks all over the convention. Now, that it was not the case 40 years ago. You weren't welcome. You don't need to stand out. Don't stand down. Stand up. If you want to come for me, come on. I'm right here. But I will not cede any ground. I will criticize anyone who I think is not doing the job that they need to do. Criticize me and make me better. But I will not be trolled. I will not be trifled with. Do that with somebody else. Somebody else. I want her to be a great president. I want her to be a great candidate, and we're trying to push her to get there. Lincoln would not have been great without Frederick Douglass. LBJ, in his greatness, had Dr. King as a burr in his side. That's the only way that it works, and you're not going to fly without resistance. Now that I've gone off for the day, Dr. LaShawn Latree, Cynthia Walton, LaTanya, don't be afraid. She's looking like, oh, no. I put it right here. Somebody needs to get wound up about something because somebody out here is going to bed hungry tonight. And somebody needs to talk about that. Somebody wants to go to Howard, LaTanya, but they're not going to have the money. Somebody wants to get to high school. They can't get on the bus. That's in America today. You ought to be sick of that. And I'm going to be wound up about it. And I'm going to push her. I'm going to push Trump. I'm going to push everybody until they open up the doors of opportunity and this money to the American people. That's what I want. And I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to back down. Ladies, would you like to say anything? You can call it a tirade. You can call it whatever you want. You don't have to stand down. Stand up to me and let's talk about it.
That's right.
I was just going to say amen.
I'm telling you, I'm 100% in agreement with you. Because if we don't stand for something, we're going to fall for anything. You know how that goes. The many times that we have trusted because people said, trust this, trust that, it has not worked in our best interest. And so in order for us to really see change, we have to really, really press hard and press into these systems that exist that people don't want to necessarily believe are the mass majority or represent, the mass majority and excludes the minority.
Look, I will say this is the last thing I'm going to say to you, Karen. You said you will stand down. You don't need to do that. You said you share facts. You sure do. But I hope you share them with other people. You don't need to come after me. No one is more responsible for the Democratic Party as it stands than Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I saw him put on a bulletproof vest and a bulletproof coat. And the Secret Service told us, well, we can't cover his head. So if they want to take him, they're going to get him. There's nothing we can do. It broke my heart to send my father out to do that. But you know what? He said, if I die, I will die nobly. I will not have a ceiling on your ambitions. If I can't get into the White House, you will. And now we are there. And I'm not going to send us there to stand up for war and genocide. I refuse to do that. I'm not going to send you there while American children starve. I'm not going to do that. In the barrios, on the reservations, in the ghettos, that's wrong. And you ought to be sick of it. Why don't you get sick of that? Talk to me about that. People living in filth in America. It's not because they want to, it's because we don't care. When you care about getting to the White House and going to a party, I'm sick of that. Sick of it. And I'm 10 toes down on that. And we can talk about Chicago, Lisa. And we can talk about Jackson, Mississippi. And we can talk about Oregon, where you can sell marijuana and not go to jail and become a millionaire. But if you sell it here, you go into jail. How about that? Something about all this, y'all just, would you please look at what is wrong and let's correct it? Huh, LaTanya? What? You agree with me? I mean, I'm just, ladies, talk to me.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, and the thing about it is that, sometimes when I do go to the meetings that you mentioned, earlier, as far as like political action, things like that, to me, it would be wonderful if we had like our 5 talking points or the 5 things that we're working on or whatever we're doing individually to advance the agenda. So when we do come back and circle around, we can give each other reports and accountability of how we've moved the needle. Because I think that sometimes what happens is that people come, like you said, Santita, just so eloquently, they come for well, I'm paraphrasing now, but the happy part, but not necessarily coming to do the work. Once we've gotten into these positions, like you've got to do the work. And you may not be able to have the happy part as much, do a quick little celebration, but do the work, because so many people have needs, felt needs, urgent needs, healthcare needs, so many needs. And it's time to the accountability part is important too once they get in office.
And put them out there. Biden has done a lot of great things. Say it. I am not the reason that she is tied with this man. And I'm not the reason. And I cannot make a more compelling argument for her, Dr. Latrice, India Walton, than she can. People are waiting for the Democratic tickets to make the arguments. LaTanya, Peggy's, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, India Walton, we're waiting on them.
And
look me, huh? Go on.
I said we don't have a long time. Something needs to be done. And I mean, I know that there is policy work happening, but it has to be presented in a way that's easily digestible by everyday folks, right? And I think that for us to say, among a bunch of, like I said, well-informed people who are paying attention, for people to say, oh, well, you need to do your research. No, like, we're not expecting people who are working 4 jobs and taking care of 3 kids to go out and do some intricate research. If the Democrats want to win, the information should be readily available. It should be a part of their vernacular. It should be a part of their talking point. They should be saying that we're going to do 1, 2, 3 for you, poor and working class Americans, and not put the onus on the voters to go out. Right. And like, in an ideal world, do we want people to be more informed before they go to the ballot box? Absolutely. I would love that. But in reality, do people have enough autonomy and self-determination to be able to spend the time researching and finding out things for themselves? They do not. They have a few trusted sources of information. I can't tell you how many people call me on election day and say, cousin India, auntie India, sister, who do I go vote for? And in our community, there are a lot of people, particularly our mamas and grandmamas and aunties, who are that person. So it's not enough to say, go find out for yourself. We have to be out here educating, talking to folks in church. Like I said, going to the schools, talking to these young people, talking to folks in the coffee shop. Like, it needs to be a part of our language. But the Democratic Party has to give us things to say. It's their job. As Santita said, it's their job, not ours.
It's not ours. I mean, the person who worked harder for the ticket than the ticket itself was Jesse Jackson. I saw him do it. He traveled more miles, gave more speeches, convinced more people, and registered more voters. Get up and do the work.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's time out for sugarcoating things, too. I notice when a lot of people speak, they change some of the terminology that they're using. And I think that disconnects them with the people, with everyday people. You know, we don't have to sugarcoat what homelessness is. It's homelessness. We don't have to sugarcoat poverty. It's poverty. But you have to speak the language that people are speaking every day, things that they can relate to, issues that are causing them not to be able to function in the capacity that they want to function in. And I think a lot of times we feel like if we don't talk about these things at the forefront, then they're not so vividly available or readily in front of us. When many of us know every time we go home, every time we go to the store, we run into homeless people, you know, laying on people's porches or laying in bus stops or whatever. Even the migrant crisis, you know, it's just these things are so key, and they resonate with the people. So there's no way we can act like it's non-existent.
And let me say this, Lisa, I hear you. You said you're disappointed nobody's talking about the border crisis and migrants infiltrating poor Black and brown communities. They're not infiltrating, they're being deposited here. I have said on this show countless times that we need to look at the tent program for refugees. I want you to look it up. The tent program for refugees, it is more than 400 corporations that have come together all over the world to bring in people from these resource rich countries in the so called developing world, in the global south. And they're being brought here, Lisa, so that they can work for cheap. That's what globalization is. I've said that on this show many times. And you know what I've done? I have, I've given it to a lot of people and no one wants to touch it. Some of the biggest countries, I mean, and haven't you noticed late at night? Look at these. See, because I'm up late. They now have you heard that commercial, Walk a Mile in My Shoes? It is a commercial where they are welcoming the new migrants to the United States of America. Oh, haven't you felt left out before? Hasn't someone ignored you? Hasn't someone been unkind to you? Oh no, I saw this last night. I said, oh wow, look at this. Walk a mile in my shoes. And it is a commercial trying to tell us to be nice to migrants. And we should be. But we need to understand the game that is getting them here. They're not infiltrating the Black and brown communities. They're being dropped in the Black communities in particular, in the under-resourced ones, in the under-resourced communities. They're not dropping them in Evanston, Illinois, or in Skokie or Winnetka, the wealthy areas. Oh no. No, they're dropping them in Inglewood. Well, we have no money. But we need to ask the question why we're meddling in Venezuela trying to overturn their election, Lisa. If we're going to ask those questions, you better ask that one too. Because we keep thinking that it is our oil up underneath their feet, and it ain't true. So we need to get real clear on that. That these corporations, that's why I'm looking, you got to look at globalism and the role that it is playing in our lives. Because it is very harmful to us. Because with at least when you have national sovereignty, you have a president who is answerable to you. In globalism, you ain't got nobody. All you have are the corporations, Latanya. It's not. I mean, because the person who's the head of global health for the world is Bill Gates. What qualifications does he have? Would you explain that to me? The World Health Organization is a private entity. How is that? What? World Economic Forum, private. Why are they controlling my money? Federal Reserve, why are they controlling my money? I mean, ask those questions. Please. Let's ask some deeper questions. I'm hearing you, Lisa, and I'm so glad that you join us because you're trying to figure it out too, my sister. I hear you. We're all trying to figure it out. That's why we're here today. And I feel very passionately about everything. So I don't want anyone to be chased away by my, what they call them, the Santita rants. I feel very, very passionate about things. And I watched my father leave our house every day, never knowing that he would come back because I didn't expect him to. But willing to put his life on the line to make our lives better, to take the ceilings off of our dreams, to end war, to end poverty. And you know what? I'm with that. So I'm going to be passionate. But if you want to come for me with facts. And you might give me some information that proves me wrong. I don't mind that. But if you don't come for me, come on. Come on. I am right here.
Can I just say a word about migration?
Yes, please. I got about 2 minutes. You got them.
So the first thing is like, let's be able to clearly identify who our opposition is, and migrants ain't it, right? It is the U.S. government that is meddling in the affairs of countries and destabilizing them and causing people to have to migrate to other places around the world. Secondly, this ain't even our land. If we really gonna talk about who is migrants, we all are. We're all immigrants in this country, and unless we gonna return it back to indigenous people, we need to be a lot more empathetic and compassionate about people. The third thing is that migration is natural. If you put cows in the pasture and the pasture runs dry, what do the cows do? They move to greener pastures. So it's not that people are coming in to our communities and taking them over. It is that our communities are under-resourced, but it's not because the resources don't exist. They're just not giving them to us. So I just want us to be mindful that we have more in common with migrants who are coming here looking for a decent life, who want the same things that we have. We don't need to make them into enemies. What we need to be calling for is our fair share of resources, and for an end to global imperialism that's driving people out of their native lands.
And that is why she needs to be mayor of Buffalo, New York. How about that? And I know, hey, I know you don't mean any harm, Lisa. We're going to continue to chalk this issue out. You know, and you're right. Black people are not immigrants. Undisputed truth. I hear you. We were brought here too, but I don't want to send them home. No. When you get down to Venezuela and you go to these countries, as I've been there, they want our corporations out of there because our corporations have been there raping them. Because if you want to see who wants to overthrow Maduro, look at our oil corporations. They're the problem. And you know, I hear you, Lisa. You said your family, you're migrants, and we should have God's heart for His people. And you know what we need to do? We need to understand what the game is. We're all being gamed, and we're all being put at each other's necks and throats. And we're not really understanding how we're all being played. We're being played against each other when we need to be fighting for each other so that we can get our fair share of resources. It's our land. It's our money. Let's get it. I love you, everybody. I'm going to see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. You might have helped to become an expectorant. I feel better already, but I'm going to go to bed. I love you, everybody. I'm going to see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Love you much. AM 950 Radio, Voice of Progressive Minnesota.